Welcome back to the Best Fleets podcast. This is episode number 3. Today, we're going to be interviewing Marli Hall, who's the Senior Director of Outreach with the Truckload Carriers Association, our partner in the Best Fleets to Drive For program. Oh, what do we have here?
Hey, Chris.
Oh, hey, Jane.
I thought I'd crash your Best Fleets to Drive For podcast.
Good, great. The more the merrier.
Hey, I need some attention. I'm not getting any attention here. So I did, I have with me my ever-present Gallagher machine. So
nice.
So what were you doing?
So we're just prepping for Marli Hall's interview.
Awesome.
So that looking forward to that and getting it out there to the world.
Because I made you do it.
Well, actually, that's actually something interesting. You were actually the one who said, "Hey, we should really interview Marli Hall since she's been such a crucial component of our program." Any other reasons particular that?
Well, she's been with the Best Fleets for years. Like, I think she's been around longer than a lot of the consecutive top 20. So, and she's always behind the scenes. That's the thing about Marli, is that she does all kinds of work behind the scenes. And I think people know that, but they don't really hear anything from her. So she's a very interesting person to talk to. Just, she has a different take on Best Fleets and no one ever hears it. So I'm actually kind of fascinated to know what her take on Best Fleets is.
She's been around since 2013. So that's when she started working with the program. So long time. And you don't get a lot of kudos when things run as they're supposed to.
No.
Especially with ceremonies like the Best Fleets an overall winner announcement. So she definitely should get some kudos. So
we start planning this thing like, I don't know, months before it happens. And a lot of it is Marli is doing this. So there are things that we take care of, and then there are things that Marli takes care of, and it kind of goes into this giant black hole of Marli is taking care of it, and we don't even think about it anymore. So it's kind of things like, arranging where the reception is going to be for the Best Fleets during the convention, arranging any Best Fleet session that we do, just even the napkins for the sponsors and that kind of thing. Like, that's all Marli. And and of course the trophies.
This year,
and the plaques.
And this year was different, obviously, with the plaques going out beforehand. And something cool that's happening now is we're starting to get each winner taking group and team pictures with those plaques, which is it's neat to see all the creativity coming out with some of these companies.
Yes. I think my favorite is Halver, where they basically had a drone fly in and zoom in on them. I enjoy that drone, and I'm trying to get someone at Carrier's Edge to get a drone so that I can use it, but it doesn't look like, it appears that everybody thinks they're going to crash. So I guess
you need a good pilot for them for sure.
I know. But so I'm looking forward to this.
Nice. And while you're here, I'm an avid listener of the Carrier's Edge podcast, as you know.
Which I don't know why, because you listen to us like every day.
Yeah, no.
Every day.
Part of my morning routine is, about an hour-long walk, and I always have to have a podcast going. So typically it's going to come out every third week, and it's going to be on a Sunday. So on Monday morning will be my listen to that podcast. So the most recent one was episode number 60. And one of the things that you brought up was, quote unquote, the things you let slide. Can you put that in context for our viewers and listeners?
Things that you let slide. Yeah. Well, we went to, and you went to this as well. We went to a big tech conference, which it was, of course, virtual this year, and called Collision. And they have like 1 billion speakers on 1 billion topics, and they're all to do with tech. And one of the sessions that I went to was on Time's Up, and basically how sexual harassment happens in the workplace. And the speaker was talking about things that you let slide. So it's the things that are not against the rules that you can't really, or you don't feel like you can punish someone for, but they're doing something wrong, or they're doing things that are what I would call, or what the speaker called, gateway behaviors. So you have gateway drugs. So people think pot is a gateway drug into a heavier drug. Well, there are gateway behaviors. Bullying is a gateway behavior into sexual harassment. And that idea of gateway behaviors and the things that you let slide, like you might let a bully kind of let it go because, oh, maybe they were having a bad day, or that's just him, or, like, it's okay. Maybe you're doing that with a driver.
Yep.
And that's what we were Mark and I were talking about, is how those letting little behaviors slide that are problematic, they basically just end up becoming bigger problems because you didn't do anything about it when they were little. And then you get this huge problem that can increase and then branch out and have different problems.
It's like it's exposing a loophole, essentially, and people are doing it unconsciously, and it grows over time.
Which is kind of like what Mark was talking about when he was saying, what you measure, are you measuring the wrong things? Or when you start measuring something, then all of these unintended consequences happen. It's kind of the same thing with ignoring things. If you ignore things, you have all unintended consequences. Right. So but thinking about those little behaviors that just annoy everyone, that you're letting go because someone is a really good performer in other ways, or he's been an old friend of yours forever, or he's high up in your company. Sometimes people high up in your company can have these bad behaviors that are actually just telling everybody else it's okay to be a jerk, or it's okay to be unsafe. And you're doing that without saying it. Like, you can say safety first, but are you acting like that? And that's what drivers see, is what you say and how you act.
And in some cases, it's romanticized. So, the startup culture romanticizes sometimes, founder behavior that's not appropriate. And a lot of that is coming out in the last, year or two.
Well, Uber.
And it has been romanticized to some extent. So it's one thing that you did mention, and it might have been in the conversation, I can't recall, or separately, was the simple one like compensation. Like,
so the idea is that pay equity is key in preventing sexual harassment. So that was their thought. So the idea is that if you don't have pay equity, so you pay all your women who are doing the same job less than the men. So you have sales executives. The women don't make as much as the men for whatever reason you've told yourself. And then what that ends up doing, when people know, and this is the other thing, is everybody wants to keep pay a secret. And that's why. This is why. Because you don't want the pay equity problems to come out. Right. So if a guy is making a lot more than a woman, then the intrinsic value of that person is heightened. They're up here, they're getting paid more. And then the other person down here is, well, I can expect them to do things for me, or I don't have to do things I don't want to do because the other lower paid person is going to do it anyway. And these are these very, very, I'm trying to find the word for it, but they're very hidden behaviors, but it happens. The people who it happens to will tell you exactly what those behaviors are. The people who are not being affected don't notice. So that's the other reason that you want to listen to what people are saying. If people are complaining about a certain individual, then you need to listen, because something is going on, especially if there's multiple people talking about it. And so when you have that inequity, then it can, when you think that you don't have to do any more photocopying, or you don't have to get coffee, or you don't have to show up for meetings on time, or, all of these little behaviors. Well, when you get away with one behavior, then you just jump it up to the next behavior. Yep. And then someone's body becomes your property, and all you have to do is say, oh, it was a joke. I can't take a joke.
Yeah, no, that's very good words of wisdom and things to keep in mind. And it also ties in very nicely in parallel with the whole strategy of this podcast and the Best Fleets to Drive More program is that gentle nudge towards progressive practices and continuous improvement. So
Well, it helps with diversity as well, right? So if
Mhm.
everybody is trying to diversify their teams and hopefully their leadership teams, which is where it's really going to make a difference, then they should be looking at not only pay, because it's not just pay across the same job, but who is in the jobs. Do you have all white men? Like, what are the jobs that women have? What are the jobs that people with ethnic diversity have? And are they given the same level of respect? Is it equal? Because if you don't, if all of your lower level people are non-white and all your executive people are white, that's an issue, because who's going to be valued more, and who's going to be treated better, and where is the respect divide, and how is that going to affect your basic workplace?
And there's obviously going to be a pretty blunt awareness of from both internal as well as external people what that looks like.
Oh yeah, and it will also be who is not profiting from it, who is benefiting from that.
Mm-hmm.
Who, like, the people who are benefiting never seem to think there's a problem. The people who are not benefiting will have a problem. So, and you can see that in all kinds of different things. It doesn't have to be a huge issue like pay equity. It can be just small behaviors. And the more that you can kind of control the small gateway behaviors, then you can prevent the large issues that come down the pipe.
Very cool. Very cool.
So listen to the podcast so you can find out.
Yes, definitely. So for our viewers, episode number 60 of the Carriers Edge podcast, so Apple Podcasts, Google Play Store, SoundCloud. It is audio format currently. I don't know if there's plans to change that to audio and video in the future, but
are you asking? Are you trying to make a ploy to we should do video?
You try it out.
To talk to Mark, man.
Yeah.
Talk to Mark.
Throw a curveball there.
Yeah. I have no problem. But you should see the setup down there. It's not nice. It's not nice.
Nice.
We have a glass door between us. So it's not.
Between you?
Yeah, we actually do, because it's to keep the sound. We're each on a track, so it keeps the sound separate. So if one person is having an issue, then it doesn't bleed. Very technical, but so we basically look at each other through this glass door. It's very conversation inspiring. It really is. Nice. So I would we need to fix our studio, basically, is what I'm saying.
Great. So we'll definitely check it out. And thanks for crashing my intro here.
I can crash your intros all the time.
There you go. Well,
all the time, man.
We'll have you back soon.
All right, then.
Thanks, Jane.
So have fun with Marli.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll talk to you later.
Thanks. Well, Marli Hall, welcome to the Best Fleets podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, this is episode number 4. And, what we're normally going to be doing is featuring an executive from one of the Best Fleets winners to highlight what they've done to become a Best Fleet.
Sure.
But we didn't want to kind of jump the queue too much. We wanted to get everyone who's involved in putting together the Best Fleets program in one of these episodes to get their feedback on what it takes to put everything together. And you are, and TCA is a critical component of putting Best Fleets together. And so welcome to the show, episode number 4. Yeah. So before we get into that kind of stuff, a little bit of a bio. I've done a little bit of research on you, and I've known you for many years. So we can probably go on forever. But give me a little bit of a background on where you came from, how you got involved with TCA, and that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Yep. So I've been with TCA now. It'll be 8 years. Actually, I think tomorrow, the 16th of April. So quite a good accomplishment there. I say that I didn't find trucking found me. So I actually applied for a job on the whim, and Debbie Sparks, VP at TCA at the time, had noticed my resume and said, "Oh my gosh, Marli Riggs, like this couldn't be any better. Riggs Hall, So I was a pretty good candidate in their eyes. And so here we are. My role at TCA, I wear many hats. So backtrack a little bit. I received my bachelor's degree at West Virginia University in journalism. So I am used to, wearing many hats, kind of being a jack of all trades, master of none, as they say. So far, my skill set has done pretty well at TCA and at an association, just in general. So I've really enjoyed it so far.
So correct me if I'm wrong, you grew up on a farm in West Virginia?
I did,
so
yes.
You're a farm girl?
I am, yes. Yeah. And that kind of plays into the hardworking, kind of ready to go, ready to help wherever and whenever I can. So about 100 head of beef cattle in basically the eastern panhandle of West Virginia. So if anyone knows.
So East West Virginia.
Pretty much, yes. Near Martinsburg. So if anyone knows 81, runs 81, they'll know Martinsburg. So right around there.
Nice. Awesome. Awesome. So any key highlights of your career so far at that you can think of it with TCA?
I have been very fortunate to travel to many either carrier companies, been on the road for the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, the Wall That Heals, been around to different sites for that. Capitol Christmas Tree, I know we'll probably get into that a little later, but I've also been able to go and see the tree as it makes its way across the country. So just a lot of great highlights. Reach Across America Gala we hosted for many years, got to meet people like, say, Taya Kyle, Chris Kyle's wife. Also, just, some famous people here and there. So, and also our annual conventions, they're a great time with a lot of great headliners too, that are super memorable.
And you spent a lot of time helping to put that all together. And I know it's not an easy feat.
Yes. Yep. The staff, we are lean and mean. There's 12 of us at TCA, and we all make sure that everyone's pitching in, huge team effort to make sure that annual convention goes well without any hiccups.
And so just before we get into the best fleet conversation, how has TCA adapted over the last 14 months in migrating to virtual and dealing with members that, maybe, aren't used to this whole scenario, these scenarios, those kind of things? Sure.
Yep. So I know a member had used the term pandemic pivot once whenever I was on a call with her. And that's so true. I mean, us at TCA, just kind of a personal note, we didn't have work from home policy, as a lot of carriers and a lot of companies do. And we were always in the office whenever needed. So, of course, we had to pivot. Thankfully, we had a phone system up and running, great software to make sure, laptops clearly that we could take with us. So we were poised and ready for that transition, thankfully. So, but yeah, we've moved a lot of our events online to a virtual setting, and safety meeting last spring was actually super well attended. Typically, there's about 250 safety professionals at the event, and we had about 1,400 on the virtual platform. So, a lot of different variables there, such as cost and things like that. But at the same time, that's incredible. And now it really makes us take a look at, how can we keep that momentum going and possibly continue to keep some of these events virtual or have hybrid events.
So in one way, it kind of helped you exercise some muscles that maybe you should have been doing before, and we all should have been doing before.
Yeah. Yep. That's true. It kind of forced people out of their comfort zone, as you've probably heard from everyone it really did. And I think that we handled it really well.
Okay, great. Well, Marli is our direct connection at TCA with everything Best Fleets. So we work hand in hand with her on a weekly basis to make sure everything goes off without a hitch. And the members who have questions or have marketing questions, they typically will go to Marli, and then we'll discuss them right away. But can you just back up a bit and just tell us how you were introduced to Best Fleets? Do you recall that process and that first introduction?
Yeah. So backtracking to that 8 years ago, 2013, whenever I came on board as a membership coordinator, my role was not just in membership. So clearly I was able to kind of dip my toe in all these different contests and awards and initiatives. So with that, that's whenever I kind of first, became enthralled, I guess you could say, with the program. So one that really has been necessary, and one that has kind of morphed into just a great one. So I would say as soon as I started with TCA.
Yep. Good. And what's your take on the evolution of Best Fleets since then? This year we'd had a record number of nominations. The program has expanded in scope and what we get into with these carriers, but what's your perspective on that?
At first, I didn't understand the magnitude of the program. I guess I was a little naive and just coming in and thinking, oh, it's another contest with another plaque ceremony with another set of winners. But after really, learning more, about the submission process, nomination, the surveys, all the key components there, it was really kind of an eye-opening experience once I became more involved.
Yeah, and I can kind of second that. I'm new to the Best Fleets team. I joined in July of last year after doing quantitative comparisons and benchmarking in the past. So I wasn't familiar or understood how the process all came together, because what you're doing is you're taking qualitative information and trying to develop a score for each question. So there's over 100 questions for the carriers to complete, and then that all has to be validated by the drivers. The drivers have to agree that, yes, you are doing, what you say you're doing, and we like being here. So that is something that's really opened my eyes. It's a very time-consuming process to go through and score, but the thing that underlies it all is it has to be defensible. So it has to be, if a third party came in here and said, okay, for this particular question, who was the best, who was the quote unquote worst, and who was everyone in between. We have to be able to defend it to each other. But so the way the process has evolved over the years, it's gotten to the point where every single question is defendable, and it evolves. So as soon as someone highlights something new that they're doing, it essentially raises a bar for that particular question, and the range changes. So that's what I love about it. It's continuing to evolve, and we're essentially neutral bystanders to the process, and hopefully helping the industry to kind of move forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, like you said, it sounds kind of cliche, but it improves and it gets better year after year after year. And also to note, I think the communications process has vastly improved. And, like I said, TCA, we aren't really immersed in the data side of things because Carrier's Edge does such a great job. And, we're kind of at that arm's length away from that information. But, it's just super imperative, again, to get these carriers in through the door, make sure they know about the nomination process, the deadlines, the timelines. So, it's just, we're happy to be a part and glad to see it keep growing and keep evolving.
Yeah. And that's part of this podcast, is keeping everybody in the know throughout the year as to what's going on with Best Fleets, what fleets are taking out of the program to enhance their companies. And that's the most rewarding thing for me. And it was in my former life with the TCA profitability program, was you hearing of the stories of companies saying, hey, I learned this and I implemented that. And it's been the difference between X and Y. And
very true.
There's nothing like that, knowing, like, there's no reward better than that, in my opinion. So can you describe all of the work that you do once the scoring's all complete, and that a lot of people don't know all the work that you do behind the scenes to prep for convention and get people ready for that process and things. Can you just describe what goes on behind the scenes?
Sure. So with all of our contests and awards, that I help to oversee, they're kind of similar in a way. And with that, we've got strategic communications and a marketing plan that we develop so we can ensure that, not only those within the industry are aware of that nomination period and such that we discussed, but then also, we got to make sure that we have our announcements down pat. So, we've got a couple press releases that go out, also the ordering of the plaques, the overall large and small category, like nice crystal flame trophies. Those are always great to receive in the mail once they arrive. And yeah, just social media. Actually, currently, we have a Showtime in September hashtag where those top 20 carriers that were named all the way back in January during that announcement, trying to keep that momentum going, trying to ensure, that, also everyone in the company is a part of this, great accomplishment, where with that Showtime in September hashtag on social, they're actually standing there. We've got photos from Herb, Garner, FTC, I think there's a few others there, but yeah, we've got some really great photos of the entire team, social distancing or with masks. That, it's great to see that. And like I said, just each year, it seems like we're improving whenever it comes to keeping people really, excited about this program.
Yeah, and that was your idea, actually, to get people to take pictures with their plaques. So we got the plaques mailed out to them, and we asked them all to take pictures, and we've seen some pretty creative exploits since then. Halver Lines just sent through one with a drone. So that was pretty creative, and we're hearing from some others too. So how does Best Fleets, so outreaches falls under your umbrella. How does Best Fleets fit in with all the other outreach programs that you do for members and through members?
Sure. Yep. So a few initiatives that I had referred to earlier with Reach Across America. I served on the Arlington National Cemetery Strategic Planning Board, which basically meant that folks, a group of about 20 some odd people get together. They used to come to the TCA office, and we would meet and talk about basically logistics operations for that one pivotal day, the National Reach Across America Day in December. So with that, I did that for quite a few years, and every single year, without a doubt, whenever we would load in 70 plus trucks to the cemetery, there would be a Best Fleets to Drive For decal on the back trailer doors, multiple ones. And, that's awesome to show that they really have, then not only is the trailer wrapped and they've got, like freedom, and the different seals and such of the armed forces, but also they've got that Best Fleets logo on the back. So it was something to see.
Yeah, it's definitely cool to see when you're on the road and see that. So Herb has a trailer done with the Best Fleets logo. I think that was for 2019. So that was really cool to see when I was driving down the road. So
yes, and then also I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Capital Christmas Tree program, Chris. And Central Oregon Truck Company, they actually had the Best Fleets to Drive For decal adorned on the cab of this truck. And this is like a fully wrapped Kenworth power unit, which then has that long, trailer, which hauls this 80-foot Engelmann spruce or whatnot for the year. But it just goes to show that, Rick and the team at Central Oregon, they really take so much pride in that shield, in that Best Fleets to Drive For decal, that they had that embedded and put on this fully wrapped truck for thousands of people to see as that Capital Christmas Tree made its journey to DC.
And that really speaks to the value that carriers, especially ones that have participated for many years, like Central Oregon, get out of the program. So we get lots of anecdotes and testimonials from carriers every year, even from companies that don't make the finalists or don't make the winners circle or list.
Sure.
But if you were to if a carrier was to ask you what is the value of best fleets, what is the ROI for me as a carrier, how would you say that to or communicate that to them?
Well, the big thing, right, is driver recruitment, driver retention. I mean, that's kind of that's my first thought. If a company is taking, if they're taking the necessary steps for, workplace benefits and ensuring that their drivers are happy and healthy, that morale that they've got right there inside, the company and the operations, that's something that radiates, and something that, I would think that as a driver, I would obviously want to partner and be a part of something like that. So yeah, I think the return on investment, it's there. And like I said, I think that, again, it's just, kind of permeates through, and I think it's kind of on the recruitment and retention side.
Yeah. And I think too, the feedback, you have to be willing to accept feedback. So
Yes.
as you know, and you've spoken to many carriers, some people don't want to be told something is deficient compared to others. But if you really want a good feedback loop, that's Best Fleets, TPP is another program through TCA. Those are great methods for feedback throughout the TCA programs.
You're right.
So what kind of things would you see in the future, and how TCA would be or Best Fleets would be evolving in the future?
Whew. It's hard to look future state at this moment. I just think that, as I mentioned before, we've done so many things, and you think outside the box. The team at Carriers Edge really has kind of elevated this program in just some pretty incredible ways. I think maybe, my outreach and engagement hat is definitely looking toward that, the marketing components, having more video podcasts such as this, definitely e-newsletters and such. So really just that media, having, really just beating the streets, having that information out there. I'm not saying full-blown paid media advertisements, say on billboards or whatnot, but I do think that definitely expanding our horizons on the media side would be something good to consider.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time for this. But before we finish off, one of the things I like to ask guests, I'm a big travel nut, as you may have already indicated to you, but West Virginia or East Coast in general, your favorite destinations?
We go to Ocean City, Maryland a lot. My husband's family has beach property there up toward the Delaware border. So we like Ocean City, Maryland. We did a mini moon, it's like a mini honeymoon in Philly. So I love Philadelphia.
A lot of history.
I've been out to Southern California. I know that's West Coast. I've been out there a few times. Love Vegas. I just love it all. There's nothing better than the mountains in West Virginia, though. So that's where I was born. I was raised. I was educated. So it has a special place in my heart. But yeah, love to travel. How about yours? What's yours?
Well, I'm a West Coast person, Canadian West Coast. BC, so
Whistler.
Vancouver Island, Whistler, the Rockies, right down into Colorado.
Totally.
Anything involved hiking, that's my favorite and our family's favorite.
Awesome.
But lots of great mountain ranges in Virginia, West Virginia, down in
Appalachian.
Exactly.
Yep.
Smoky Mountains too. So done all of that hiking. So those are some of my favorites as well. So
Appalachian Trail guy?
What's that?
Are you an Appalachian Trail guy?
Yeah, we've talked about doing that, when we're at the end of our working life, my wife and I taking off.
It's quite a commitment.
Yeah. So I think by the time we get to that point where we're going to slow down, it'll probably be like a virtual reality hike.
Just put on the goggles and just sit there and enjoy all the views. You're right. You are right.
Yeah, I could do without getting beaten up or something on the trail.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. So once again, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
And yeah, we're just appreciative of all the work that you put into making Best Fleets what it has become and what it will be in the future.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Well, there you have it. Another Best Fleets podcast episode on the books. Thank you once again to Marli Hall for taking the time for this episode. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to us for future episodes and for past episodes of the Best Fleets podcast on YouTube or wherever you subscribe for audio podcasts. Thank you. See you next time.